Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Brajajanarandana Yasodanandana Brajajanarandana Yasodanandana Brajajanarandana Yasodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Srila Prabhupada used to chant that right before class. So reading from Bhagavad Gita, as it is, by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. I don't have anything prepared, so we'll just read from anywhere. It's all transcendental. All right, so we can start on chapter 4 on page 181. Transcendental knowledge. Yeah, 181. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Well, we can chant the Sanskrit. Śrī Bhagavānu Vāca Imam Vivasvāte Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvān Manave Praha Manu Ikṣvāku Bravīt. Translation. The Personality of Godhead, Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvān, and Vivasvān instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikṣvāku. Repeat after me. The Personality of Godhead said, Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god. Vivasvān. And Vivasvān instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to Ikṣvāku. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. I just wanted to say something about this this word purport. He could have called it explanation. He could have, called it anything. But when there's a purport. That means there's something to be gotten out of it for one's personal benefit or for anyone's benefit. It's not just information, but it is an imperative. It's something that not only is, like I say, is not an explanation, but how to practically apply what is being said. So, we have a purport. Herein we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The kings of all planets are especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants. Therefore, the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge, in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the executive heads of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness, so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path, utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivasvān, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita 552, it is stated, Chachaksha Asia Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasa Suramurtir Ashesha Teja Jasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adipurusham Damaham Bhajami. Let me worship, Lord Brahma said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. The son of the king of all planets, and the sun god at presence of the name Vivasvān, rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivasvān his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not, therefore, a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. In the Mahabharata, Shanti Parva 348, 51-52, we can trace out the history of the Gita as follows. Treta Jugadao Chatato Vivasvān Manavedadao Manusha Lokabhityartam Sutta Keshva Kavedadao Ikṣvāku Katito Yapya Lokan Avastita. In the beginning of the millennium, known as Treta Yuga, the science of relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivasvān to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaj Ikṣvāku, the king of the earth planet and forefather of the Raghu dynasty in which Lord Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in human society from the time of Maharaj Ikṣvāku. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapara Yuga, 800,000 years, and before that was Treta Yuga, 1,200,000 years. Thus, some 2,005,000 years ago, Manu spoke Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son, Maharaj Ikṣvāku, the king of this earth planet. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 305,300,000 years, of which 120,400,000 have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivasvān, a rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120,400,000 years ago, and in human society it has been extant for 2 million years. It was respoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita, according to the Gita itself, and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa. It was spoken to the sun god Vivasvān because he is also a Kshatriya, and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants from the sun god, or the Surya Vamsa Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is paraushaya, superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession. And it is described herein that the Lord spoke to the sun god spoke to his son Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikṣvāku. So, I'm sure that no one here is thinking that this is a mundane book, just somebody's, some sages, speculated and came up with it. But this has been, was given to mankind and all over the universe by the sun god, Vivasvān. So it is not something trivial. It's very important. In the Kali Yuga, unfortunately, everything is topsy-turvy, upside down, inside out, backwards. It is the age when sinful men become prominent. And we have in our different governments around the world, we have demons who have no interest in the welfare of the people, but only in their own aggrandizement and their own nefarious plans to enslave people. So 5,000 years ago began the Kali Yuga, just after the departure of Lord Krishna. Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago for about 125 years, and then left, and that commenced the Kali Yuga that we are in right now. So the Kali Yuga, as stated here, started 5,000 years ago, and it lasts for 432,000 years. And there are many things that are predicted in this age. Just like in the Bible, there are predictions of coming events. We have knowledge from the Vedas of what is likely to happen in this age. And so there are many things. One is that the memory and the stature of human beings will become greatly diminished over time. At the end of 432,000 years, people will be the size of pygmies. And if you live to be 20 years old, you'll be considered a grand old man. There will be nothing to eat. There will be no grains. There's no rain. Without rain, you can't have grains. There will be no cows. If you have a fruit, it'll simply be a pit covered by skin. There'll be no flesh. Okay? And there's some other things which are rather gruesome I won't mention. So in this age, many, many things. One is that people will accept religion as irreligion, and vice versa. So we're already seeing symptoms, even 5,000 years of what is probably maybe a few percent into the total age. 5,000 out of 432,000, it isn't much. Okay, so we're kind of in the beginning stages. One of the symptoms will be that the governments will become like thieves. Right? We're the government, take them up, hand it over. Right? So we've seen all these things. Another one is that long hair will become a standard of beauty. Yeah. Right? The beetle. So, unfortunately, in this age, everything is misunderstood. And, of course, Lord Krishna knows everything. So, his appearance, Lord Krishna's appearance, had many different aspects. Okay, when Krishna appears, when there's a rise of irreligion, then Krishna appears to set everything straight. Actually, Krishna appears for the pleasure of his devotees. But simultaneously, when there are things that need to be done, we saw that when Krishna appeared, there was the battle of Kurukshetra. And just prior to the beginning of that war, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Very interesting juxtaposition of time. Normally, such philosophical discourses you would think would be in a society or an assembly of Brahmins. Arjuna's wasn't a Brahmin. Why did Krishna speak Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna? I'm sure there were many saintly people, many Brahmins available at the time. So it's very interesting, and on a battlefield, philosophical discussion, world wars just about to begin. This is very interesting. Okay, so Krishna has a plan, and if we read the Mahabharata, this is just Bhagavad Gita is just one chapter. Okay, the history of Greater India, the Mahabharata. So in this age, people they're not really interested in religion. They're not really interested in self-realization. So how to attract people? Well, people like stories. They like some history, some intrigue, right? Some conflict and this and that. If you want to read a book, people would rather read a narration, something that happened. Wow. And if you read the Mahabharata, I mean, it's like, if you've never read it before, you read one paragraph and it's like, oh my goodness, what's in the next paragraph? And then you read the next paragraph, next thing you know, you can't put it down because it's just so absolutely amazing. And all of the twists and turns, you have, these demons on one side, the Kauravas, and then you have the Pandavas over here. The Pandavas were like a fig. They didn't have a chance. Far outnumbered by the Kauravas. Okay? The Kauravas had Bhishma Dev, the grandfather. Okay? He's the father of the whole dynasty. Okay? And you have Dronacharya, who's the military guru of Arjuna. Okay, and you have Arjuna's facing all of these family members, right? So this whole intrigue of leading up to this treatise from Lord Krishna, simply to attract our minds. And here's this very interesting situation, and all of a sudden, Arjuna gets cold feet. I don't think so. I've got my grandfather. First of all, they would ask Krishna to come up to the front of the front, right? He says, Krishna, can you drive my chariot up to the front so I can see again who we're fighting? So Krishna drives up to the front. He says, oh, well, Arjuna, there's your grandpa, and there's your guru, and all your friends, and Arjuna starts to have second thoughts. So this is all leading up so that Krishna can speak the Bhagavad Gita, the same Bhagavad Gita that he spoke to the sun god millions of years ago. It's very, very interesting. Okay, so he's making Arjuna the next Acharya. Okay, and why? Because Krishna said, I'm telling you these things because you're not envious of me. Because you are my devotee, I'm teaching these things. Okay? Especially in this age, but generally, we are in this material world because we rebelled against Krishna. There's some little bit of misgiving there. We don't want to go along with what Krishna wants. And in the beginning, Arjuna didn't either. But it's just, it was a setup. Arjuna was, Arjuna was bewildered by Krishna just so he could ask the questions, not just for Arjuna, because Arjuna already knew all of this, but for the reader, but for the future, or us. So Krishna arranged that Arjuna became a little bewildered, and first he said, forget it. I just can't do this. And if we win this war and kill all these people, who are we going to enjoy with? And their families will be broken, and they won't have anyone to protect the ladies, and they'll be, they're unprotected, and maybe there will be some unwanted population, and so on and so on. He came up with so many good ideas. Why I shouldn't fight. But he of course realized, I'm confused because I know it's my duty, but I can't do it. So even though I said I'm not going to fight, but now I'm okay. Let me pull myself together. I'm going to ask you to be my guru now. We're friends. Arjuna and Krishna were intimate friends. But he said, okay, now I'm becoming your disciple. So I want you to clearly tell me what's best for me, right? What's best in this situation? So now the circumstances have changed a little bit. Okay. Arjuna is asking Krishna to come up to the front. Krishna is driving the chariot, right? So, just being functional. But now he's asking him, okay, I'm in this dilemma right now. I'm completely freaked out. these are my superiors. I'm fighting my superiors. Okay? These people are titans in my life. In fact, Prabhupada said that Arjuna was kind of crying because he didn't want to go through with it. But when he asked Krishna, what do I do? What did Krishna say? Krishna said, Arjuna, look at man, you're talking big words, but what you're saying is ridiculous. What you're saying, first of all, and he starts talking about the soul. So he's telling Arjuna all these things for our benefit, so we can hear what Krishna wants to say. Okay. So he said, first of all, the soul can't be killed. You think you're killing your grandfather or this one or that one, okay? Even if you kill them, okay, they'll attain the heavenly planets. Or they'll, the Kshatriya code is if you die in battle, okay, then you're elevated. So, but the soul can't be killed anyway. So you're really not killing anyone, okay? So, we may not understand. Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight this war because Krishna had a greater plan. So he's asking Arjuna, please surrender to me. Surrender to my plan. Okay? If you act on your own, then you're responsible for that. Okay? Well, suppose you're in the army, right? And if you kill the enemy, then you get awarded maybe a promotion or get some award or something. But if you kill one person on your own account, you'll be in the brig or worse. Okay, so you're in big trouble. So in this world, if we act for anything that's not related to Krishna without pleasing Krishna, then we get the karma for it, good or bad, right? So Krishna didn't tell Arjuna to open hospitals or do charity work. He's saying, Arjuna, do your duty. You're a Kshatriya. Your duty is to kill the enemy. Okay? But not just that, but it's because I have a plan. And he wanted Arjuna to fight because there was a higher purpose. Okay. So Krishna has a plan for this world. Okay. But he allows us to take part in that plan. Krishna could have wiped out the whole army, the Kaurava army, just by throwing his chakra or whatever. He could have easily eliminated these demons. But he wanted Arjuna to take the credit. He wanted Arjuna to surrender so that we could take the example. Okay? So there are sometimes we have to sacrifice something that we would rather do, but for Krishna, then we sacrifice for Krishna and become part of Krishna's plan. Okay? So this is how Bhagavad Gita came about for the benefit of the human society. But again, it's not something new. The idea is even the demigods are all subservient to Krishna. And years ago, I heard the statement that even the demigods bow to a pure devotee. And you think about that. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, Indra, and all these great demigods. Someone who's a pure devotee, they are seen as equal to Vishnu. Okay? Someone like Srila Prabhupada, we have to understand, the demigods are not pure devotees. They're very obedient servants of Krishna, very exalted. And they're Vaishnavas. They worship Krishna, but there's still some desire for material enjoyment, and they certainly have the facility living in the heavenly world. Okay? And we saw the pastime of Krishna with the sons of Kubera. They were cursed to stand as trees Okay? So it's easy or easier to, by our desire to enjoy in material nature, sometimes we mess up. Okay? So the demigods, in fact, Lord Shiva, there's no greater Vaishnava. Lord Shiva is a very exalted devotee. Okay. Vaishnavanam Sashambhu. Okay, so even great demigods, then we have Vivasvān, the sun god, okay, they're all servants of Krishna. Okay. So this Bhagavad Gita was given to human society, and it should be propagated by the government. Okay, but what we have today is, well, not exactly Vaishnava. And the only real Vaishnava we have right now, at least in America, is Tulsi Gabbard. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. And so she's in a very good position. Prabhupada said one day even the high court judges will be devotees. Okay, so this is what we want. We want a government that's going to lead people on the right path. Okay? I don't want to go into any more political discussion, but the idea is that human life is not really meant for all of this modern technology and comforts. And interestingly, in my life, my father was an engineer. And so I went to school, I was going to be an engineer. And after studying Śrī Prabhupada's books and hearing Prabhupada's lectures, I've realized how much, even though I've heard it so much and read in Prabhupada's books, I can actually start to realize how much it robs our energy. All of these things that we think are time-saving, right? You have a washing machine, you have so many conveyances and cars and this and that, but we're up to our neck in debt to have these things, and we work very, very hard. Okay, and self-realization gets put on the back burner. Ask me how I know. So we're working very hard, but the real purpose of human life is to become a devotee of Krishna. Okay, that's who we actually are. What we are understanding pretty much from our birth and from our upbringing, that this thing that I'm living in is myself. Even though we know, we devotees here, we know that we are the soul. We know that we are the spiritual entity within. But still, out of convention, we deal with each other more or less that I'm the body and you're the body I'm seeing, right? But actually, we're not. And the more we engage in Krishna's service, then we begin to understand, we begin to see, right? The difference between looking and seeing, right? A child is seeing the car, looking at the car driving down the road. But he has no idea the whole arrangement. The engineering that went into the car, and there's the driver, and he's pushing the buttons, but the kid doesn't know that. Okay. So, because we have not been educated, I'm talking pretty much in the Western world. In India, the culture is a God consciousness. So the basic understanding of the soul and the body and these things, that's understood and in the Indian culture. But when you have people who want to import the Western technological culture into India, it has created havoc. Okay? The people cramming into the cities looking for a job, okay, and then starving because they left the farms where all the food's being grown, right? You can't eat nuts and bolts. Prabhupada said, right? So the original Vedic culture is God conscious, okay, depending on Krishna. In modern society, we don't want to depend on Krishna. We want to think that I'm doing this. I'm in control of nature. I'm going to seed the clouds. I'm going to, drill for water and pump water out. And we have no idea how the universe works. We have the pastime of Lord Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. Krishna was telling his townspeople that, who is this Indra? Why are we worshiping Indra? It's ridiculous. He throws water anywhere and everywhere. Better than worship Govardhan Hill. Right? So Indra got all, hot under the collar. And he brings the storms and everything. Okay? So we are dependent on God. If there's no rain, guess what? Nothing's going to grow. That's a problem. So he wants us to become dependent on him, to have a relationship with him, okay, to surrender ultimately. But we don't want to do that. We want to, create a society where we don't need God, right? We can't teach about God in school, at least in the West where I grew up, public school, because somebody might be a different religion, and that would cause a conflict, and so on and so on. So guess what wins out? Atheism. And the people in the educational world are often atheists, right? They don't want to have any, they don't even want to pledge of allegiance, under God. They want to take, in God we trust off the money, right? So in this age, this is typical. It's not surprising, because in this age, we don't really want God consciousness, right? We want to enjoy. We want to, mode of passion. Okay, so Krishna has a plan. Okay, sooner or later, this whole artificial situation that we've created will fail. Okay, when there's no God consciousness, then you can't have prosperity. If you cut a rose from the bush, eventually it'll wilt and die. So if we cut ourselves off from God, eventually the society will collapse. That's how it works. Okay. If you don't recognize these gifts from God, the light, the water, the heat, and the bounty, well, then it's like being a thief, right? Somebody who went to somebody's house and they, said, "Yeah, make yourself at home. Just be out. I'll be back." And you're like, "Hey, nobody here. It's mine now," right? We don't think that everything that exists belongs to someone else. In other words, God. We are at his beck and call, or we should be. But in the modern day, it's like we're the top dog, we're the pinnacle of evolution, and we don't need no God. We don't need no Bhagavad Gita or Bible to tell us what's right and wrong, right? So this is the problem. And unfortunately also, and my apologies to those who are in the scientific community, because I'm going to make a generalization. The scientific community is basically, the idea is that we're going to prove that there's no need for a God. Right? There's no need, because we can control all of these things. It's a ridiculous idea. But we have many, the prominent scientists that are atheists. But that's lumping everybody in. There are many scientists also who are quite religious. And also in the past, they give their allegiance to God. They get their inspiration from God. That's welcome. That's fine. Okay. So we have the Vedic knowledge, but the problem is in the Vedic knowledge is in Sanskrit. And so, especially in the West, people don't read Sanskrit. They don't have this background of information. How things are going on. What the infrastructure is in the universe. I think it's just everything's automatic. So if it's automatic, then there must not be a God. Or if there was, that's the way he did it. He's, wind up the world and let it go. But if you understand who Krishna is and what our relationship with Krishna is, okay, we are all servants of Krishna. We are subordinate. We always have been and always will be. Okay? So, independence is a myth. There is no independence. We have Independence Day, right? Independence from disease? No. Independence from death? No. Independence from old age? Well, you don't think about it till you got a little older. Okay, we don't have independence, but we want to be. Okay? We have this little rebellious spirit. We want to be like Krishna. Chip off the old block, right? We have the same characteristics, spiritual characteristics, very small. If you walk down the street and take a drop of water out of the ocean, okay, a drop of water isn't the ocean, but it's very similar. It's got the same salt content and everything. Okay, so we as spiritual beings are cut from the same cloth, but we're really, really tiny. And the only way that we can enjoy this nature is to be under a cloud of illusion. If the illusion goes away and we see God, if our hearts are not clean, we can't handle it. If someone walked in here, if Krishna walked in here right now, I'm going to admit, my heart is not clean. I don't know what I would think if Krishna actually walked in here and exhibited himself. This misgiving cannot be in Krishna's presence. We cannot be in Krishna's presence because of these misgivings. Okay, so the purpose of Krishna consciousness is to help us cleanse these misgivings, to curb this little bit of envy. When I'm growing up, I'm not thinking that I want to become God. Anybody think like that directly? I want to become God. Actually, there is some philosophy. We have different societies, SRF and whatever. Okay, I am a bubble. Please make me the sea. In other words, people want to become God, or they say we've forgotten. We're actually God, but we forgot. No, not exactly. We wanted to be like God, so he makes a situation where we can think like that. And, well, here we are. But the actual situation is that in the spiritual world, everyone's center of attention is this one person, Krishna. And he has the ability to interact with every single living being simultaneously. Right? Krishna had, what? How many wives? 16,000 wives? It's not like they had to take a number. Right? Let's see. Well, I'll say you in a few millennium. Oh, by that time you'll be dead. So, no, he was commanded himself. Everyone was with Krishna. And Narada Muni went to go see Krishna. He went to one house, and then, he's doing something over here, and they went to another house, and Krishna's doing something over here. Different things, right? So Krishna has the ability to have a relationship with every single living entity. Can you imagine that? How many bajillions of living beings there are? But Krishna can have a relationship with every one of them. And the only thing Krishna wants is our heart. He wants our love. He has everything. He can manifest anything. Beautiful women, bunch of the money, big houses. He wants to relate to us. He wants us to feel and become enlivened. Like plugging something in the wall, you get the juice. So Krishna wants us to experience this relationship because he knows there is no other source of happiness. You could have anything you want, like a fish out of water. If you take a fish out of the water, you put him on a nice, chaise lounge, and bring him some caviar. Oh, he doesn't like caviar. Give him a massage and maybe some copper tone. Anything he wants. He'll never be happy until you put him back in the water. So the happiness that we have here, there is some. Don't say there isn't, right? And the highest happiness, material life is, of course, of the sexes, right? But nothing is actually completely satisfying. Even if we see someone enjoying, forgive me if I'm talking too long. Anyway, you see someone enjoying, you think they're happy. So I want what they have, right? So we're envious of each other. And if maybe you have a lot of things and you see someone who doesn't, well, it's somebody's fault that they've been discriminated against, right? We point fingers. Oh, it's, this person, that person, this philosophy, whatever it is, it's unfair, right? They have to, have equality, and all these sorts of things. But we don't understand why it's like that. We don't understand the law of karma and what goes on here in this world. Okay? This world is like a dream. Sometimes you have a nightmare, sometimes you have a nice dream. But we don't put two and two together because what we do has, what goes around comes around. Okay? If we don't find satisfaction in ourself, we will look for it externally. Right? We're looking for something that comes through the senses. Some kind of, maybe some philosophy, or maybe, we do some welfare work or something like that, which is good. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay? But even if you do something good, you get karma for that too. So that means if you have karma, you have to come back. You have to take another birth. And if you have a material body, unfortunately, disease and old age and death are part of the bundle. Like a bundle. You buy something and it's, buy something and then have this accessory, it's all part of the mix. When we have material desires, we are subjecting ourselves to these miseries. Okay? But Krishna consciousness is where you can still do things. You can have a family, you can have a job. I'm a piano tuner, that's my work. Okay. But I am not a piano tuner. I do that for my work, but that's not who I am. What I am is the servant of Krishna. And similarly, every one of us, we're all servants of Krishna. And we have to learn how to reestablish that relationship. Okay. So what to do? Well, you're all here. You've already taken that step. Is there anyone here that had for a first time? Everyone's been here before? Been here? Okay. So, Krishna consciousness means how to learn to become spiritualized. We don't have to shave our head. You can live outside, have a job, okay? Just like any churchgoer or, go to some religious institution. But we ask people to add Krishna consciousness, the awareness of God. And that awareness is supplemented by chanting the names of God. And that's the recommended process, okay? When you go to eat something, we recommend vegetarianism. We are automatically vegetarian because everything we eat is first offered to Krishna. We make our meal an offering, right? You have some boyfriend, girlfriend, okay, maybe the girl bakes some cookies or something, right? Or you bring something to them and you develop a relationship. So we offer our food to Krishna as an offering of love. Okay? So the essence of love is service, right? We think love is, some fuzzy feeling, some pretty attractive person walks by, I love this person. But love is actually a relationship of mutual service. That's what it is. So, but not just an act of duty, but devotional service. Okay. Are we getting down? Okay. So anyways, so this Krishna consciousness movement is to help us to begin the process of reconnecting. The word yoga means to connect. So we're trying to reconnect ourselves to Lord Krishna. Krishna has millions of names, we can call him God. But specifically, we're talking about Krishna, who is the original personality of Godhead. So we have behind the curtain here, we have deities, so you can see the form of Krishna. And we have chanting, the names of Krishna. And you can take home some literature. We have Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Krishna, and other books available to read. And recommend that you get some japa beads and chant the names of Krishna, like a rosary, like that. And many years ago, when I first started coming to Christian consciousness, the guy said, if you chant for 5 minutes a day, at the end of a week, you'll see a change in your consciousness. Heck, I've tried everything else, might as well try chanting Hare Krishna. And I actually found that it worked. It's like, wow, there's something to this, right? You actually feel something. You can't prove it. It's not something you can go to a laboratory and, cook it up. We actually feel something. There's some realization from within. That's what we want. It's not just, big philosophy, big words. Let's get it here where you can feel it. And, and then from there our faith increases. The more you read, the more you understand. You look around, you see things. Oh, now I get it, right? Oh, it's like the light comes on. You begin to see things in their own place. And as you go on, the faith increases and increases and increases, right? And we come together and we talk about Krishna consciousness. That's how it works. It's like a snowball. So we don't make any discrimination. Anybody can come. Doesn't matter where he came from, or whatever. This is, I'm not just tooting the horn here. This is the highest philosophy. This is a philosophy from which you can see everything in its place. It's like being at the top of a mountain. Okay, so they're dragging me off the stage. So any immediate questions? Feel free to ask, or you can talk to me afterwards if you like. So, anyway. Thank you very much, Prabhus. Hare Krishna, thank you for coming. Thank yourself for coming. Hare Krishna. All glory to Śrī Pavamana Dasa.